day, everyone.
It is me, Jack Cox. Don't laugh. Get it? Because instead of doing that, I did that. So, Spider-Man Homecoming. Now, before I begin my review, I'm just going to start off by saying that I loved the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man films as a kid. In fact, it was through Spider-Man 2 that I found out about Spider-Man in the first place. What an introduction to the character, right? I thought the Andrew Garfield films were okay, but they weren't as substantial as the Tobey Maguire films. Just my opinion. But now we have Tom Holland. Starting off with my basic thoughts on the film, I thought it was pretty decent and it wasn't bad. But into a more detailed opinion, I'll start off by saying what I didn't like about the film, just to get it out of the way first. Number 1. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I felt that there were elements of the film that were contributed by SJWs. And I'm not talking about the diversity, I have no problem with that whatsoever. It's just the minor details, like in the beginning when Adrian Toomes, aka the Vulture, picks up this drawing of the Avengers, and he acknowledges that in his time there were kids who drew cowboys and Indians. But then the Tinkerer, yes, I know my comics lore, he corrects Adrian by saying the correct term is Native American. Now, I'm personally the type who thinks that there should be diversity in everything nowadays, but you don't have to go all politically correct about it. Yeesh, Sony. Ever since Ghostbusters. Number 2. Now, I feel like I'm at the point where I've had enough of Marvel's plotting structure. I'm not saying that I'm suffering from superhero fatigue. In fact, the only superhero films I'm looking forward to at the moment are The Incredibles 2 and Glass. But it's because that Marvel structure their films that way, it didn't really feel like that there were actual stakes. In the original Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire, when he's fighting the Green Goblin in the abandoned building and when the Goblin said that he was gonna murder Mary Jane after he killed him, that moment made Spider-Man stronger to combat the Goblin some more. But Spider-Man Homecoming doesn't really have anything like that. And speaking of Tobey Maguire, number 3. I felt like at one point that it was copying Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man a bit, where it's revealed that Liz Allen's dad is the Vulture, and I was like, oh great, this is just going to be like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, where the dad villain dies, and Liz Allen hates Spider-Man for thinking that he killed her father, but she trusts Peter. Luckily, it wasn't all like that, it's just that the Vulture gets sent to jail in the end, he doesn't die. So, I guess that's doesn't really count as a negative, but the next one definitely does for me. Number 4. The suit. Now, I love how the suit in the film is ridiculously accurate to the comic books, but what I don't like is the fact that Tony Stark made the suit for Peter, and it just made him look like a teenage Iron Man when he's not. He's Spider-Man, people! He made the suit himself in the comics, and the web shooters. But they did have to shoehorn Iron Man into the story somehow. But I just wish that Peter Parker made the suit himself. Which is why, controversially, I like Peter Parker's homemade suit better, because it differentiated from the past iterations of Spider-Man, and he made the suit himself, just like in the comic books. This may sound a little ironic coming from someone who's suffering from superhero fatigue, but like Stan Lee said, quote, "You can't change what's already been established," end quote. Now that the bad stuff is out of the way, let's move on to the good stuff. Number 1. I thought Tom Holland kicked ass as Peter Parker and Spider-Man. He was socially awkward and geeky as Peter Parker, just as he was fun and quipping as the Webhead. Number 2. I also thought Michael Keaton as the Vulture was pretty relatable. I liked how he was a blue-collar worker who had the ground view of the Avengers, and that he always had to pick up after the Avengers' battles, and he was like a scavenger, just as a real Vulture scavengers. So I like how that trait fits into his role as the supervillain, the Vulture. Number 3. Now, John Hughes is one of my all-time favorite directors, just putting it out there, And Ferris Bueller's Day Off is one of my all-time favorite films. I liked how this film was really trying to go for a high school feel by casting actual teenagers, or if not, people close to that age. And I liked how it was referencing Ferris Bueller's Day Off, but it was self-aware that it was referencing Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Yeah, all the teachers, they were all like out of a John Hughes film, particularly Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Did I mention Ferris Bueller's Day Off? And finally, number 4. Now, I knew that Sony had to shoe in Iron Man just for commercial advantage and to explore the relationship between Tony Stark and Peter Parker, but it was great that he wasn't in it that much. After all, the film is called Spider-Man Homecoming, not Spider-Man and Iron Man team-up extravaganza. At least the film as a whole tried to differentiate from other Marvel films as a whole. And for that, I'm going to give Spider-Man Homecoming a 3.5 out of 5. Maybe it's because that I prefer the Tobey Maguire films more, or that I'm suffering from superhero fatigue, but Spider-Man 2 was arguably the first ever superhero film I've ever watched, and it has a place in my heart as such. I can't really say that this film is the best Spider-Man film since Spider-Man 2, but it is the best Spider-Man film in a while. And that, Jackyboy fans, concludes today's video, so thank you so much for watching. Be sure to leave a like, share and subscribe. And one more thing, just want to say that I'm sorry I haven't uploaded in weeks, but I've been busy with some other stuff. But I promise you, in the next video, I'm going to explain why that is. But until then, peace!